The fluorescent hum buzzed like a swarm of secrets as I yanked the fitting room curtain shut behind me, the fabric whispering against the metal rod like a confession I wasn't ready to hear. My best friend, Rowan, had slipped in right after, his shoulder brushing mine in the too narrow space, his breath catching in a way that made the air thicken between us. And then, without a word, he dropped to his knees, fingers trembling as they grazed the hem of my shirt, pulling it up just enough to expose the scar from that dumb bite crash we'd laughed about 1,000 times. But this time, his eyes weren't laughing, they were drowning. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to escape the stall altogether. "Ro, what the hell?" The words came out rougher than I meant, scraped raw from the back of my throat, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he looked up at me, those blue eyes I'd known since we were kids building forts in the redwoods of Willow Ridge, now cracked open with something fierce and fragile. "Eli," he whispered, voice breaking like driftwood under waves. "I can't pretend anymore. Not with you. Not here." Portland's November drizzle painted the mall windows in silvery streaks, turning the world outside into a watercolor smear of umbrellas and hurried strangers. Inside Abercrombie, the air smelled like cedar cologne and fresh cotton, a far cry from the pine-scented trails back home where we'd spent our summers dodging chores and chasing fireflies. I was 24, fresh out of community college with a barista gig that barely covered my shoebox apartment rent, and this shopping trip was supposed to be a break, a mindless scroll through racks of flannel and denim to shake off the monotony. Rowan had tagged along like always, our friendship the one constant in a life that felt like it was unraveling thread by thread. But now, crammed in this fluorescent coffin of a fitting room, with his hands still lingering on my skin, everything I'd chalked up to bromance bullshit cracked wide open. We'd been inseparable since 3rd grade, when he moved to Willow Ridge from some nowhere town in Idaho, all gangly limbs and a backpack stuffed with dog-eared comics. I was the loud one, the kid who climbed the tallest oaks and dared the creek's deepest bend. He was the quiet shadow, sketching monsters in the margins of his notebooks while I narrated our adventures like we were stars in our own blockbuster. Our moms called us the dynamic duo, oblivious to how those boyhood bonds had twisted into something deeper, something we'd both buried under layers of denial and deflection. I stepped back, my heel knocking into the bench, the jolt sending a pile of discarded jeans tumbling to the floor. "Get up, man. Someone's gonna see." My voice was a hiss, panic threading through it like fog off the Columbia River. But Rowan didn't move. He stayed there, knees pressing into the thin carpet, his dark curls falling forward to shadow his face. The scar on his jaw, from that time we jumped the fence at Old Man Hargrove's orchard and he ate gravel instead of apples, caught the light, a silver reminder of risks we'd taken together. "I've been hiding it for years, Eli. Since we were 15 and you kissed that girl at the bonfire, and I spent the whole night throwing up in the bushes because it should have been me." The words landed like a sucker punch, stealing the air from my lungs. 15. The bonfire on Black Rock Beach, sparks dancing against the star-pricked sky, the taste of cheap beer and salt spray on my tongue as I fumbled through my first real kiss with Jenna from homeroom. Rowan had been there, nursing a soda by the driftwood pile, his laughter forced when I bragged about it later. I thought he was just being the supportive sidekick, the guy who always had my back without asking for the spotlight. But now, replaying it in my head, I saw the flinch in his smile, the way he'd wandered off into the dunes alone, silhouette swallowed by the night. "Ro." I sank onto the bench, the wood creaking under me, my hands clenching into fists to keep from reaching out. The fitting room felt smaller, the mirrors multiplying us into an infinite loop of awkward angles and unspoken regrets. Outside, muffled pop music pulsed through the speakers, some indie track about lost highways that suddenly felt too on the nose. Willow Ridge was a speck on the map, a logging town hugged by evergreens where Sundays meant church potlucks and whispers about the city queers ruining everything. Growing up gay there wasn't an option. It was a ghost story told to keep kids in line. My dad, a mill foreman with calluses like tree bark, had drilled into me that real men fixed what was broken, loved who they were supposed to, and never looked back. Rowan's folks were worse. His dad a retired cop who collected guns like grudges. His mom a ghost in her own kitchen after the divorce. We'd escaped to Portland 2 years ago, pooling our savings for a 2-bedroom in the Alphabet District, close enough to the food carts and dive bars to feel alive, but haunted by the what-ifs of home. I'd crashed on his couch after my folks cut me off for dropping out of state college. Too much tuition for a dreamer, they'd said. And he'd never asked for rent, just handed me a key and a beer like it was the most natural thing. Nights blurred into mornings of takeout Thai and late-night talks about everything from Marvel plot holes to the ache of being 20-something in a world that moved too fast. But sex? Love? That was territory we skirted like a riptide. Jokes about bros before hoes, masking the current pulling us under. Now, with his confession hanging heavy, I felt the pull sharpen into a knife's edge. Why now? Why here, in some stupid mall stall? I gestured wildly at the half-zipped jeans around my ankles, heat flooding my face. Rowan finally rose, unfolding like a question mark, his slender frame brushing mine again as he steadied himself against the wall. Up close, I could smell his soap, clean, like rain on moss, and see the faint freckles across his nose that only showed in summer. Because you're leaving, Eli. That job in Seattle? The one with the tech startup? You pack tomorrow, and I couldn't let you go without knowing. Without you knowing me. Seattle. The offer had come last week, a junior dev position that promised stability, a fresh start away from the barista grind and the ghosts of Willow Ridge. I'd told him over pizza at our favorite hole-in-the-wall on Burnside, watching his fork pause mid-air, his nod too quick, too bright. That's huge, man. Proud of you. Lies. All of it. Because I'd seen the flicker in his eyes, the way he drained his beer faster than usual. Leaving meant unraveling us. The tether that had held me steady through breakups and blackouts, family holidays that tasted like ash. I pulled my shirt down, the fabric rasping against my skin, buying time to sort the storm in my chest. Part of me wanted to bolt, to laugh it off as a prank gone wrong. But another part, the one that remembered holding his hand during his grandma's funeral, whispering dumb jokes to keep the tears at bay, rooted me in place. You think this changes everything? That I'll just, what, pack you in my suitcase? It was cruel, the deflection, but fear made me sharp. Rowan's laugh was bitter, a sound I'd never heard from him, like cracking ice on a frozen pond. It changes nothing and everything. I've loved you since we were kids stealing smokes from my uncle's glove box, Eli. Watched you date girls who didn't deserve your light. Hated myself for wanting to be them. And now, you're slipping away, and I'm done being the friend in the wings. He leaned in, close enough that I could trace the pulse jumping in his throat, the vulnerability stripping him bare. The curtain rustled, some sales kid calling out sizes, and we both jerked apart, hearts hammering in unison. I shoved the jeans into his arms, muttering, buy these or something. We need air. But as we stumbled out into the store's chaos, bags swinging like alibis, the weight of his words settled deep, a stone in my gut promising to drag me under or set me free. That night, back in our apartment on Northwest 23rd, the city lights flickered through the rain-lashed windows like Morse code for regret. I paced the living room, floorboards groaning under my socks, while Rowan showered, the water's steady roar drowning out the indie playlist we'd curated together, Bon Iver crooning about skin and ghosts. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, a text from my sister back in Willow Ridge, a blurry photo of the family Thanksgiving setup, turkey trust, and pies cooling on the sill. Miss you. Bro dad's asking when you're visiting. The lie I'd fed them, stuck at work, tasted sour now, another layer of hiding. Rowan emerged in sweatpants and a threadbare Husky's tee, towel rubbing his hair until it stuck up in defiant spikes. He dropped onto the couch, legs tucked under him, the picture of casual that fooled no one. We good? The question hung, fragile as the steam curling from his mug of chamomile. I sank beside him, the cushions dipping us closer, our knees brushing in that accidental way that suddenly felt electric. Define good. Honesty clawed its way out, raw and unpolished. You dropped that bomb in a fitting room, Ro? Like we're in some rom-com gone wrong. What am I supposed to do with it? He set the mug down, fingers tracing the coaster's edge, a habit from nervous nights studying for finals. Feel it. Or don't. But don't leave thinking I was just your sidekick. His voice softened, eyes dropping to the carpet where a stray sock lay like evidence. Remember the summer after junior year? That road trip to Crater Lake? We parked by the rim at midnight, stars so thick it felt like the sky was falling. You said, this is it, man. Us against the world. I almost kissed you then. Swear to God, my heart was a freight train. Crater Lake. The memory flooded back in Technicolor. The volcanic blue water gleaming under moonlight. Our truck bed loaded with coolers and blankets. Laughter echoing off the caldera walls as we roasted marshmallows over a Coleman stove. I'd been high on freedom, first taste of wheels and open road, oblivious to the way he'd watched me, firelight carving shadows across his face. "I thought you were hungover," I admitted, a half-smile tugging despite the ache. "You barely ate." "I was starving. For you." The admission was quiet, but it detonated something in me, a spark igniting dry tinder. I turned, fully facing him, the room narrowing to the space between our breaths. Portland thrummed outside, horns and laughter filtering up from the street, but here, it was just us, suspended in the what could be. My hand moved before my brain caught up, cupping his jaw, thumb brushing that old scar. His stubble rasped against my palm, warm and real, and when our eyes locked, the world tilted. "I've been blind, Ro, scared shitless of what it means." The words tumbled out, a dam breaking. Because it did mean something. Redefining the only family I'd claimed as my own, staring down the homophobic undercurrents of Willow Ridge that still echoed in my nightmares. He leaned in, tentative, lips hovering a whisper from mine. "Then see me." And when we kissed, it was slow, exploratory, tasting of tea and years of almosts. His hands fisted in my shirt, pulling me closer, the couch creaking as we shifted, bodies remembering what words couldn't teach. It wasn't fireworks. It was embers, long buried, flaring to life with a heat that scared and thrilled in equal measure. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together, the rain pattering a soft applause against the pane. "Seattle," I murmured, the word a ghost now. "What about?" "Stay," he breathed, fingers threading through my hair. "Or take me with you. But don't go alone." The offer hung there, a lifeline in the dim light, as the city whispered possibilities we'd never dared voice. But dawn brought the unpacking of more than bags, the fragility of truth, the terror of tomorrow. And as I lay awake beside him, his steady breathing an anchor in the dark, I wondered if we'd just scripted our beginning or lit the fuse on our end. The next morning broke gray and unrelenting, Portland's signature overcast mirroring the fog in my head as I stared at the ceiling cracks that mapped out like fault lines. Rowan's arm was slung across my chest, heavy with sleep, his curls tickling my shoulder, an intimacy that felt both revolutionary and terrifying. We'd stumbled into bed sometime after 2, clothes shed in a trail from couch to hallway, bodies mapping uncharted territory with the caution of explorers who'd waited too long to claim their ground. It wasn't perfect, elbows knocked, laughs bubbled up at awkward angles, but in the quiet aftermath, tangled in sheets that smelled like us, I'd felt a peace I'd chased through every failed hookup and hollow party. Coffee brewed in the kitchen, its bitter steam curling up to pull me from the bed. Rowan stirred as I slipped away, murmuring something incoherent about volcanoes, a remnant of our Crater Lake dreams. I padded to the window, overlooking the avenue where hipsters peddled fixies and food trucks fired up for brunch rush. Seattle was just a 3-hour drive north, a skyline of glass and ambition calling with emails I'd ignored since last night. The job promised health insurance, a cubicle with a view of Puget Sound, escape from the Milltown echoes that clung like damp moss. But leaving now? It felt like amputating a limb, the phantom pain already throbbing. Rowan appeared in the doorway, boxers riding low on his hips, a yawn stretching his frame. "You didn't pack." It wasn't a question, more an observation laced with hope, as he crossed to the counter, pouring 2 mugs with the ease of muscle memory. "Not yet." I took mine black, the heat searing my tongue as I blew across the rim. "Last night. That wasn't just the heat of the moment, right? We're not going to wake up and pretend it was a drunk mistake." He set his mug down, rounding the island to stand toe-to-toe, his height matching mine, but his presence always softer, more yielding. "Eli, I've scripted 1,000 versions of that conversation in my head. The real one's better." His hand found my waist, thumbs circling lazy patterns over the waistband of my sweats. Scared, terrified. Honesty was our new currency, fragile and valuable. What if this ruins us? The friendship's been my rock. And back home, you know how it is. Dad's got that look, like he'd disown me faster than he did his own brother for living in sin down in San Francisco. Rowan's expression darkened, shadows pooling in his eyes. His uncle, the one who'd slipped us those smokes, had been the family pariah, letters from the Castro unopened, holidays tense with unspoken judgments. My dad's worse. Found my sketchbook once, the one with the guys from that magazine. Burned it in the backyard barrel while I watched from the shed. Said it was poison. I've been choking on that ash ever since. The confession hit like cold rain, drenching the warmth we'd kindled. Willow Ridge wasn't just a dot on the map. It was a pressure cooker of plaid shirts and pickup trucks, where the annual Lumberjack Festival doubled as a masculinity seminar, and queerness was the monster under the collective bed. We'd bonded over it young, me defending him from the jocks who called him pretty boy, him patching my knuckles after I'd swung at whispers about my soft poetry phase. But we'd never named it, never bridged the gap from allies to this. Lovers, tentative and trembling. We spent the day in a bubble, ignoring the world beyond our four walls. Brunch at screen door turned into a walk along the Willamette, hands brushing until they laced, the river's churn mirroring the whirl in my gut. Strangers glanced, some smiles, some stares, but Portland's progressive pulse beat forgiving, a buffer against the barbs we'd known. By evening, sprawled on the rug with takeout cartons and a bootleg copy of Brokeback Mountain we'd swore off watching, the high cracked. My phone lit up. Mom, voicemail timestamped noon. Elias, honey, your father's not well. Chest pains last night. Doctors say stress, but you know him. Won't rest till the mill's straight. Come home for Thanksgiving. We need you. The plea twisted like a knife, visions of hospital beeps and Dad's stern face crumbling under 4 lines. Rowan paused the film, reading my silence. Go, he said simply, though his grip tightened on the remote. Family's family. Not if they can't handle this. I waved between us, the us that felt sacred and doomed. You think they'll roll out the welcome mat for their prodigal son and his boyfriend? The word hung, boyfriend, testing its weight. Rowan's smile was wry. Stranger things. But yeah, it'll suck. We fronted as brothers, like always. The lie tasted like defeat, but necessity. We packed my bag that night. Light, just enough for a long weekend. His help silent, efficient, each folded concession. At the door, as Ubers honked below, he pulled me into a kiss that bruised with goodbye, whispering, text me everything. And Eli, come back to me. The drive south was a blur of evergreens and exit signs, Amtrak sway lulling me into half-dreams of fitting rooms and firelit confessions. Willow Ridge greeted me with its familiar chill, the air thick with wood smoke and the faint rot of fallen leaves. Mom hugged me fierce on the porch, her apron dusted with flour, eyes red-rimmed but grateful. Dad was homebound, propped in his recliner with crosswords and oxygen prongs, his gruff, "About time," masking the vulnerability that made my throat close. Thanksgiving unfolded in rituals, turkey basting, aunts gossiping over green bean casserole, the TV droning football scores. Rowan texted sporadically, miss your snoring, apartment's too quiet, anchors in the nostalgia that threatened to drown me. But cracks showed. Uncle Ray's slurred toast to real American values. The way cousins side-eyed my city haircut, questions about that girl you're seeing, laced with expectation. By Saturday, Dad cornered me in the garage, amid shelves of rusted tools and fishing lures. Heard you're sweet on someone. Serious? His voice was gravel, eyes searching mine with a desperation that peeled back years. I swallowed. The fitting room echoed loud in my ears. Yeah, serious. But it's complicated. The half-truth burned, but full disclosure? It'd shatter him, this man who'd raised me to swing a hammer straight. He nodded, clapping my shoulder with weakened grip. Life's full of that. Just don't let it bend you wrong. Wisdom or warning. I couldn't tell, but it lingered like smoke as I drove back north Sunday dawn, the Cascades a silent jury. Portland welcomed me with open arms, or Rowan's, waiting on the stoop with coffee and a tentative grin. How bad? Bad enough. I pulled him inside, the door clicking shut on the world. We didn't talk. We moved, shedding coats and doubts in the hallway, falling into bed where words failed but bodies spoke volumes. It was reclamation, fierce and forgiving, his sighs mapping the hurt I'd carried home. But Monday brought reality's bite, the Seattle offer deadline looming, emails pinging with nudges. Over dinner, pad thai from the cart down the block, Rowan broached it. Take it. We make it work. Weekends, FaceTime, the whole long-distance shtick. I push noodles around my plate, appetite soured. Or I turn it down. Stay here, grind it out. Us against Portland. His fork stilled. Don't martyr for me, Eli. You've got dreams bigger than this town. The argument simmered low, accusations veiled as concerns, selfishness, fear, the specter of resentment. By night's end, we lay back to back, the space between us a chasm wider than any mile marker to Seattle. Weeks blurred into a tense limbo. I accepted the job, start date pushed to January, buying time we filled with stolen intimacies. Dawn runs along Forest Park trails, hands linked under diner tables, nights where his sketches came alive on my skin with pencil and promise. But the hiding gnawed. At my sister's holiday party, we played straight, laughs forced as she introduced dates, who-eyed Rowan with casual envy. Whispers followed, Eli's got a type, and guilt festered, a slow poison. It crested mid-December, snow dusting the city like powdered sugar on a wound. We planned a cabin getaway in the gorge, a weekend of no-signal bliss, but en route, my phone died, and Rowan's lit up with a call from home. His face drained as he listened, voice dropping to murmurs. When? Yeah, I'll come. His dad, heart attack, critical in Boise. The irony twisted cruel, mirroring my own scare. Go. I echoed his words from before, pulling over on the shoulder, wipers slashing at flurries. I'll handle the cabin. But as he packed a go bag in our hall, something snapped. This is it, isn't it? The question burst out, laced with paranoia born of too many almost goodbyes. You run home, play the dutiful son, and what? Bury this? Us. Rowan's bag hit the floor, zipper teeth gnashing. Jesus, Eli, it's my father. Not a referendum on our relationship. Hurt flashed, raw and ragged. Or is that what you think? That I'm still hiding? Aren't you? The accusation flew, venomous. Every time we visit, every family call, it's back to square one. Brothers. Nothing more. He recoiled, eyes storm dark. I've given you everything. My heart, my bed, my goddamn soul. And you throw it back like it's not enough because my family's fucked up? Newsflash. Yours isn't handing out rainbow flags either. The fight escalated, voices rising until neighbors thumped the wall, words weaponized with histories we'd weaponized before. Maybe Seattle's better. He spat finally, slinging the bag over his shoulder. Space to figure out if this is love or just fear of being alone. The door slammed, echo reverberating like a gunshot. I stood in the silence, snow melting on my lashes from the open window, the cabin keys mocking from the counter. Betrayal bloomed, not in his leaving, but in the truth it unearthed. I'd pushed because I was scared, terrified that loving him meant losing the armor I'd forged in Willow Ridge's forge. Days stretched into a frigid void. His flight out, radio silence. I drove the gorge alone, the cabin stone fireplace roaring against the chill, but warmth eluded me. Journals filled with scrawls, memories of fitting rooms and fireflies, questions of what freedom cost when it chained you to regret. Calls to my sister yielded platitudes. Therapy apps offered scripts I couldn't voice. Christmas Eve, a knock shattered the quiet. Not Rowan. His dad had stabilized, but flights grounded by blizzards kept him stranded in Boise. No, it was Luca, my co-worker from the coffee shop, all easy smiles and mistletoe mischief. We'd flirted harmlessly, a distraction from the ache, but when he leaned in on my stoop, bourbon on his breath, I kissed back, desperate, devouring, a betrayal born of loneliness. Guilt crashed immediate, tidal. I shoved him away, mumbling excuses, the snow swallowing his confusion as he retreated. Alone again, I shattered, a vase hurled at the wall, shards glittering like tears unshed. Dialing Rowan's number, voicemails beep my confessor. I fucked up. Come home, please. He returned New Year's, gaunt from hospital vigils, eyes hollowed by more than jet lag. The airport reunion was wordless, hug fierce in the baggage claim, cab ride thick with unsaid. Back in the apartment, strings of lights still twinkling from holidays past, we unpacked the wreckage. Tell me, he said over cold pizza, cross-legged on the floor like kids again. So I did. The kiss, the void, the realization that losing him would hollow me worse than any job or judgment. Tears tracked his cheeks, but anger didn't flare. Instead, forgiveness bloomed tentative, hands clasping across the cardboard battlefield. We hide together, he murmured, pulling me close. Or not at all. January dawned with resolutions etched in frost. Seattle deferred again. A remote trial run bartered with the firm. We came out piecemeal, texts to sisters yielding cautious support, a dinner with my mom where hands stayed linked under the table, her squeeze saying more than words. Willow Ridge loomed, a reckoning delayed but inevitable. Spring unfurled green in the parks, our love ripening alongside. Picnics by the cherry blossoms, where he'd sketch me napping in the grass. Midnight drives to the coast, windows down, his head on my shoulder as waves crashed confessions. But shadows lingered, his dad's recovery calls laced with probes, my father's health a ticking clock. The climax crested Memorial Day, a forced pilgrimage home. Willow Ridge bloomed defiant, lilacs heavy in the air as we pulled up to my folks' rancher, the mill's distant hum a dirge. We'd agreed. Out, on our terms. Dinner was a minefield, steaks charring on the grill, aunts probing with potato salad forks. Dad's eyes narrowed over his plate as Rowan passed the rolls, our casual touches too fluid, too fond. After pie, he cornered us in the den, Bible on the side table like a sentinel. "What's this?" Voice low, accusatory, the air thickening with unspoken scripture. I stood, Rowan's hand warm in mine. "This is us, Dad. Real. Loving." Silence stretched, eternal. His face crumpled. Not rage, but grief, a father's world tilting. "Son, the town, the church. It'll eat you alive." "We'll eat back," Rowan said softly, steel beneath the calm. "Or leave it behind." The argument raged quiet, tears and testimonies clashing until Mom intervened, her embrace a bridge. "Love's not a sin, Harlan. It's the hardest grace." We left at dawn, the ridge a silhouette farewell, hearts bruised but unbroken. Back in Portland, the city embraced our scars, pride flags fluttering like promises, friends toasting our survival. Summer waned into fall, Seattle shelved for a local startup gig that let us root deeper. Rowan's sketches sold at weekend markets, my code weaving digital dreams. We adopted a mutt from the shelter, named him Calder after the lake, his wagging tail a daily reminder of joy reclaimed. Years later, standing in that same fitting room, anniversary ritual, jeans tried on with grins, we laughed at the ghosts. "Follow me again?" I teased, pulling him close. "Always," he whispered, the mirror reflecting not just us, but the men we'd become. Free, flawed, fiercely ours. In Willow Ridge's quiet, changes crept, my dad visiting with tentative questions, his hugs lingering longer, Rowan's family thawing with a Christmas card, no sermons attached. Not perfect, but human. Compassion's slow thaw, identity's hard-won bloom, love's defiant bloom in the gray. And in the end, it wasn't the hiding that defined us, but the revealing, the fitting room's fluorescent truth, lighting the way home.